Hello and welcome. Today we're doing Chanel Holiday Part 2. So in my first video, I have swatches of the entire collection. We also looked at several of the items and did reviews on the blush highlighter products, the Nuit Astrale palette, and the mascara and so forth. So we're going to do comparisons for those items here today as well. So additional comparisons that were requested. Plus we're going to do details and demos for all three of the 9pan palettes, as well as some more requested comparisons. So everything that I have that was requested is featured here in today's video. So we're going to start off with comparisons for some of the other items. So we're going to start with the blush highlighters. So with the holiday collection, Chanel released 2 illuminating powder blushes. So these are really very, very light. So they are luminous. I have both of them mixed on my cheek right now, but you can see that they're not super pigmented. We're going to go ahead. We're going to swatch these. I feel like most people are just going to use it, you know, kind of all together and not separate it by color. So if you want to see comparisons of it separated by color, definitely take a look at the first video there. But we're going to take a look at these right now. So the first one here is our Rose Lumiere, and then this is our Peche Lumiere. You can see how light they are. So I did have a request to compare them to the Sisley Lorcaday blushes, which I thought that was a great idea. So we're going to swatch all 3 of these. This is the original Lorcaday blush, and this is shade number 1. And you can see that this is going to be more pigmented. We're going to put this one down here. This is the most pigmented of the 3. You can see it's significantly more pigmented than the Chanel blushes, and this is going to be more matte. So it does come with a shimmery top coat on it. This is the blush with it removed. And then we also have Rose number 2. So there's going to be a little bit of a sheen with this, but again, it's going to be much more matte than what we have from the Chanel. There is some shimmer to it. It's going to be a little less radiant, a little less pearly looking. It's also going to be more pigmented. It's a brighter pink. The shade of pink is slightly warmer here in the Lorcaday. Just to show you the Chanel pink on its own, you can see the Chanel pink without the white highlighter in it is going to be a little bit lighter, and yeah, they're just slightly different there. So I would say the Lorcaday, surprisingly, are going to be more pigmented. And then we have number 3, Coral, which is going to be a little bit more of a coral shade compared to our Peche, which is definitely going to be more of a yellow peach. And again, it's going to be more pigmented. So those are the Sisley Lorcaday blushes with the Chanel Rose Lumiere and Peche Lumiere. Let's go ahead and look at some comparisons with the Nuit Astrale palette. So this is the Quad 397 Nuit Astrale, and I have to say I absolutely love this. I think it is a really beautiful quad. I'm going to go ahead, we're going to swatch vertically down my arm here again, just like we did with the blushes. Let me just add a little bit more. You can see that this blue has a little bit of a greenish gold sheen to it, which, you know, I think is a really nice touch. We talk about all the shades. I've got the demos and details for this in the first palette, or in the first video. So if you missed that, be sure to take a look. But I love this palette. We've got some really beautiful tones here. We've got these cool bluish purple shades, but then this shimmery shade here adds a little bit of warmth with that little bit of that yellowish green in there. So I think it really, you know, it's a really great addition to the palette. And you can see we also have some different shimmers here. So, you know, we've got different styles, different formulas here, or finishes. So we're going to start off with some Chanel singles. And this here is Mauve Sucre. This is number 250. And I'm going to put this one down here. It doesn't really go with any of these in the palette because you can see this is much more pink versus everything here in the palette is going to be more blue. This is 230 Gris Paris. This is going to be a matte gray shade, and we'll put this one right here, but you can see color-wise it's closer to this, but it's really just going to be more of a blue-gray. It's really going to be more of a light gray with a touch of blue in there. This is 232 Lila Poudre. And this is another purple shade here, but you can see it's going to be a little bit more bright. It is a really beautiful lilac matte shade. This is 236 Brun Talpa. It's not really going to match these, but I did kind of want to show you how these compare to a brown taupe. This is one of my favorite from the Chanel shadows. Another request was this palette from Suku. This is Suku 146. So let's go ahead and we're going to swatch this. And I'm going to just put this one vertically down here at the bottom. You can see that this is a really beautiful purple palette, but it's going to be less blue. We do have some blue-based purples in here, but this is really more of a blue palette than Nuit Astrale, with a touch of purple in it, whereas something like the Suku 146 is a true purple palette. Likewise, we have the Clé de Peau. This is the Purple Ocean Twilight. And I'll put this one up here at the top. And this primer shade doesn't really show up much, but again, we've got more of these like true purple hues compared to the blues in Nuit Astrale. This is the Clé de Peau Holiday Palette from this year. So this is number 504. And I'm just going to put this one right here. We've got, you can see we've got some browns, and let's move down here, and some pinks and purples. But again, none of the colors really match that of the Chanel palette. Another request was this one here. This is the Chanel Holiday palette from a couple years ago, Lumiere Graphique. And again, these are not really going to match anything here. Because we're looking more at some neutrals, and you know, we've got some really beautiful shimmers here, but none of these shades are going to be super similar to anything in the Nuit Astrale palette. Then the last product we're going to compare would be the Byredo Mineralscapes palette. Still one of the best palettes, and this one definitely has some closer shades. So this one here, this is our first blue. We're going to put this one here. It's kind of in between the two of these, closer to this, but it's going to be more blue. That was our very first shade right here. Let's take a look at, we're going to take a look at these two purpley shades here. So we have this matte purple with a bit of brown in it. You can see it's going to be deeper and more brown than that in the Chanel. And then we have this deeper blue, which is going to be significantly more pigmented. It's a really beautiful shade though. And then let's take a look at these shades down here. And this one is fairly close. So that is this one here. And then this one is going to be deeper. So really the only shade that is, you know, a good replacement or alternative would be this one here in the Byredo Mineralscapes. The others are going to be more pigmented, slightly different in tone. So I hope that was helpful. Again, here's the Nuit Astrale palette going down this line. And then we looked at the Clé de Peau Purple Ocean Twilight, the Brun Talpa, the Clé de Peau Holiday Palette, Chanel Lumiere Graphique. This is the Gris Paris, or Gris, I forget what it was called, the Gris from the singles. This was the Lila Poudre from the singles. This was the Mauve Sucré from the singles. And this here was the Suku 146 palette. And then we have the Byredo Mineralscapes here. So I hope that was helpful. Let's go ahead. Let's move on to the 9 pans. So I think the best way to go through the 3 9 pans is to do each one individually. So we're going to start off with swatching this. We'll go all the way down my arm. If you want to see all 3 of the palettes compared with each other, then definitely take a look at the first video where I swatch all of those together. But then we're going to do comparisons specific to each of these palettes. And, you know, we'll pull out some that look similar from some of the other 9 pans, as well as some additional comparisons. For demos and details, I do have extensive demos and details, eye swatches for all 3 of these. So we're going to go through those separately. Again, if something doesn't interest you, please use the timestamps. So let's start off with 847, the Daring Muse. All right, so we're starting off with a gold metallic shade here It is smooth and silky to go on. So is the silver. And you can see the silver has a little bit of blue in it. Our golden shade is actually a little bit of a mandarin orange gold. Then this shade that appears white at the top is actually going to have a bit of this blue shimmer. So this is really great shade as a topper. You can see there's a little bit of blue, a little bit of purple, but if you put this on top of a deep shade, which we'll do in just a second, you'll see that it pops a lot more. So then in the next row, we have a matte red, which, you know, I didn't think I'd like that, but I actually do like that shade. We have this beautiful, kind of a soft metallic green with a touch of teal in it. And then this blue, which looks, you know, before you actually touch it, it looks like it's going to be a bright blue. It's actually going to be a medium tone navy. We have a little bit of a gray base. So when you kind of blend this one out, you can get a bit more of that gray hue. On the bottom, we have a matte terracotta shade and then a shimmery beige with a touch of gold in it. And then we have this matte black. And this matte black has some silver shimmer to it. So I'm going to swatch this one again, just right here. And then we're going to put the blue on top of that so you can see how that pops. And it reminds me a lot of the Swatch shades like this. So one more time, here's a look at the entire 847, the Daring Muse palette all at once. Let's take a look at these on the eyes and look at some demos. As for some product details, we have 8 grams of product with an 18-month shelf life, and this is made in France. It does not come with any utensils. Again, we have 9 shades in here with a variety of different finishes. Each of the 3 9 pans were designed by one of the different collective members. So this one here is a limited edition item from the brand's Holiday 2025 collection, which features a diverse mix of shimmering, metallic, and matte shades designed for holiday looks. It is created by the Comet collective makeup artist, Amy Drama. This palette includes vibrant and unique colors like a peachy duochrome, an icy blue transformer shade, a pumpkin brown, and a sparkling black. Some shades are designed as transformers or toppers, like the icy blue, meant to be used over other colors. Now, as for my thoughts on this palette as we're going through all of the different shades and how everything performs, it's obvious that there are different finishes, even with those that shimmer. Some of them have a more transparent base than others, such as this white, the icy blue that looks white in the pan. That is definitely designed to be a topper shade, and it goes on best if you apply it on top of something more pigmented. And I like to use a fingertip for that because I feel like you get a little bit more of you can see a bit more of the blue that way, whereas sometimes with the brush, depending what you use underneath, you might also be picking up a little bit of whatever base you have underneath and mixing it with it, which mutes it a little bit. So if you want to see more of that blue, definitely go in with a fingertip or foam tip applicator to get a little bit more of that pigmentation, and use more of a patting method or a tapping method versus a swiping or sweeping method. Out of all 3 of the 9 pans, this is your most traditional holiday color story. We've got the silver and gold that we see in pretty much every holiday collection. You've got the red and green that is classic for Christmas. We have blue and silver for Hanukkah. You know, there are just a variety of different, colors here that are reminiscent of the holiday season. Now, each of the 9 pan shadows, they do have different amounts of mattes and shimmers and metallics and so forth. But this one has the least amount of matte shades, which does make it, in my opinion, a little bit harder as a standalone palette. So we have kind of that terracotta shade in the bottom row, which is a nice base shade. That's a matte, and then the red is a matte, but the other shades all have some sort of shimmer or sparkle to them. So personally, I would have loved to see like a lighter matte in here as well, because for me, this palette becomes one that is more of an accessory palette, something I will utilize with other eyeshadows. versus a standalone palette. However, I did want to show you what it looks like to use the red as a blush and, you know, using one of the shadows as a highlighter. So you can sort of use this as an all-in-one palette in a pinch, but I just feel like it is not, well, one, it's not really designed that way, but I feel like with the different finishes and so forth in here, it is a little bit harder to get some cohesive looks. And that's really going to be a personal preference. If you love everything being very shimmery, this is a great palette for that. You have a wide variety of colors here that you can mix and match. We've got cooler tones, we've got neutral tones, you know, we've got festive sparkles and so forth. That being said, and because this is the one palette of the three that has the most traditional color stories, the most traditional shades and finishes for holiday season, I feel like unless you are starting a new collection, these are all shades that you're going to already have in other palettes. And, you know, it can be a little bit harder to get just like a soft everyday look with this. It's definitely more of, to me, an accessory or addendum type of palette. Out of the three, this is the one that I like the least, because when I do get a palette with 9 shadows like this, I want to be able to make a wide variety of different looks while still having, I'd like more mattes in here. I mean, that's really what it boils down to for me. I would have loved some lighter mattes in here to kind of mix and match, or, you know, just some softer shades in general that are not the gold or silver. So, you know, all of these shades here are going to be fairly pigmented. We've got some primary shades here with like the red and the blue and so forth. And they're definitely great fun to mix and play with. But again, just for me personally, harder to work with these on their own to create a variety of looks without bringing in other shadows. So this one is my least favorite. So let's go ahead and look at some comparisons. Let's start off with this shade from Swatches. This is called Nebula. The formula for these, it's a very creamy product here. You can see the shade of blue is a little bit different, but it's also gonna be a bit more pigmented. If I put that on top here, you can see we get more color. Formula-wise, between the two of them, personally, this one from Swatches, it does get creasy over time. It's a very creamy product, which you can see by how much that has kind of dug in over the years. So as for how it performs on the eyes, the Chanel Icy Blue does last better without creasing, but you don't get as much of that wow factor as the Swatches. So I actually prefer the color of the Swatches, but the formula of the Chanel. So I want to take a look at some of the Chanel singles. This is 234 Beige Sable. And this one I wanted to compare with kind of this beige shade down at the bottom. You can see Beige Sable is going to be more of an ivory shade, and we have more of a smooth metallic finish versus a bit more shimmer in the 9 pan. So you can see the difference in how those, react with the light. This is not really going to match, but this is 254 Mint Aloe. This is the deeper green in the Chanel singles that has come out. You can see though, it is going to be a lighter green. It doesn't have that teal. It's going to be a bit more minty. And then this is 248 Latte Frappe, which is going to be one of the mattes. And this is going to be warmer than the one in the 9 pan here. It's going to be lighter, a little bit more orange. I also want to take a look at the Lumiere Graphique palette with this one. And I'm going to swatch this down here at the bottom so you can kind of get an idea of the palette overall. Because we do have this black. The black, it doesn't really have shimmer per se in it. There's a little bit, but not as much. But when you mix some of them, you can see it gets very similar. This one is very close to that beige shade there. And then we have this white shade here. This is really going to be more of a sparkly white. It does not really go with any of those, but if you're looking for something more neutral, we kind of have those two shades covered. So I just want to take a look at 848, the new singular. We're going to take a look at the brown and the orange here. And we'll just put those right here. You can see that the brown is going to be cooler in tone. Our orange is way more orange. It doesn't quite go with any of these. So those are definitely going to be different. And then I also wanted to compare the blacks and the whites in all three palettes. We're going to do that in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at 849, the Space Traveler, and let's start with these blues and see how they compare here. So this is our brighter blue. This is our deeper navy, and you can see that this one from 847 kind of fits right in between the two of those. There's a little bit less of a sheen in the 847 one. I also want to take a look at this more terracotta shade down here. Let's put that right there. And you can see that those two are fairly close, but the one in 849, Space Traveler, has a little bit more brown, and the one in 847 has just a touch more red, a little more redwood. We're going to take a look at some of the Pat McGrath motherships, and this one here is number 6. So let's take a look at this brown one here and see how that compares. Again, it is not really going to match up with any of these. Let's take a look at the gold up here, and this is going to be more yellow. We have this shade here, and let's compare that to our beige. You can see this one has a little bit more of a rosy vibe to it. That's really the closest from this mothership. This is Decadence. I just really wanted to look at the blues in here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to re-swatch the Chanel blue. So we'll look at that in just a second. And we've got more of this teal. And then we have this light blue. And as for 847, let's take a look at this blue here, which is going to be closest to that one. And then let's look at the silver and our frosty blue. So here's our silver and here's our frosty blue. You can see we've got some similarities, but nothing's the same there. And then this is our mothership number 1, Subliminal, my personal favorite. You can see this is much more of a royal blue here. Let's take a look at this first shade with the, it's going to be more ivory with a touch of gold. And then this last shade here, or icy blue. And we'll put that right there next to that one. Oh, it's hard to see. Let's try it again. We'll put it up here. There you go. And you can see that one is going to be more impactful. It has much more of a duochrome effect to it. This one, you know, it's better personally than the Surratt or the Chanel personally. So that's it for our 847 comparisons. But before we move on to 848, I do want to take a look at the blacks and the whites for all 3 of these palettes. So we're going to swatch the white and the black from 847. I'm going to do it right here. So here's our white, here's our black. This is 848, so we've got our white and our black. You can see this white is going to be more pink. This black is more of a matte. And then with 849, we've got more, again, more of a blue and another matte. You can see that this is going to be a cooler black versus the warmer black for 848. And then the black for 847 is similar in depth of color, but it has that silver shimmer. This is going to be a lighter, icier blue, whereas this is going to be a brighter blue. So before we move on, let's just take a look at this icy blue here from the mothership, the Subliminal, and see how that compares. You can see this is going to be more of a brighter blue, whereas the one in the 849 palette, it's a little bit warmer. There's a little bit, it's a little bit of a softer blue with a little bit more of a yellowish green vibe to it. It's not quite as bright, not as cerulean. Let's go ahead and move on to the 848 palette. All right, so this is 848, the new singular. And let's start off with swatches here. So we start off with this kind of deep, let me get that a little bit wider there, a deep purple with a little bit of shimmer here. We move on to a matte olive green. Our white, as we just looked at, this one is going to have more of this pink shift to it. So you can see we get a little bit more of a soft pinker look. And then we move on to this brown matte taupe. It's really more of a medium tone brown though. And then we have a soft peachy pink. Again, this is going to be a matte. We have a nice bright lime shimmer with much more of a yellow base, a really nice pumpkin orange, a mint green matte, And again, we have a black matte here, which is, this is the one that is the least pigmented of the three mattes, of the three blacks, that is. So this is the new Singular. Let's take a look at these on the eyes. Again, this is made in France with an 18-month shelf life and 8 grams of product. This is called 848, the new Singular, and it is a limited edition item from Chanel Holiday 2025. This palette was created by Cecile Peravina from the Comet Collective, and we have more mattes here. So there are 6 mattes, 2 satins, and 1 glitter. To say I enjoy this palette more than I expected to. I love having a variety of mattes here with different colors and then some shimmers that can go on top to sort of transform them into different things. This lime green shimmer can be definitely used on its own. It's pigmented enough to wear on its own. However, it can also be kind of dispersed softly, make it more of a topper. The white shade in here, the one that, you know, kind of turns a bit pink, that one, you know, you'll see more of that pink on top of a deeper base like the black, but I do find that this one is more firmly pressed in the pan. It's a little bit harder to get the pigment up from this one. So I have to say, I don't love that one. I actually really love the olive green in here. The olive green and the matte brown and the pumpkin orange, even the peachy pink, you know, those are probably my favorite shades in this palette, and it really surprises me because it goes against what I typically prefer. But out of all 3 of the palettes, I feel like this one has the most variation in color that allows you to create a wider variety of looks. I have an easier time coming up with different, more varying ideas with this palette than I do with the other 2, which really, you know, that kind of surprised me because this one I was not really all that interested in when I saw it in the original photos. It wasn't until my essay swatched it for me and I was like, I actually do really like that one. So yeah, this is a really, really great palette. You've got shades here, you know, this is definitely one you can use all year. That peachy pink definitely works as a blush. You know, I don't really think any of these shades work great as a highlighter, but it can be done. So can you use this as an all-in-one palette? You definitely can for the eyes. You could use it for cheeks and so forth. And yeah, I think this is a really nice one. So this, I think, is a really great palette here. Again, shade-wise, I think all of them perform well except the white, which is a little bit firmly pressed, harder to pick up. And I do find that the black on this one is a little bit more, it's more of a faded black, but it seems like it's a little bit harder to pick up as well. It's a little bit drier than the blacks in the other 2 palettes. One of the things I really like about this palette is that you have such a wide variety of shades that can be used all year. Nothing in here screams holiday. Nothing in here screams special occasion. You, of course, can make things more special depending on how you mix and layer things. But I love how this definitely seems like something that will get used throughout the year. And yeah, I'm really enamored with this particular color story here. I think including this cooler tone eggplant purple with kind of these warmer like pumpkin greens and or pumpkin orange and the olive greens, you know, I think those 3 shades, they go so well together, like in duos. I love mixing and matching those 3 as duos. I think it's just, it's beautiful. We've got those lighter pastels here, which really scream more spring. We've got shades that scream fall, that scream winter, summer. So I feel like, again, this palette is really well designed for use all year round. All right, so the first thing I wanted to compare is actually this single from Chanel. This is the top coat in 220 Blanc Pearl. And this also, again, looks white, but you can see it's got kind of that pink reflect there. The difference is this is going to be a cooler tone pink in the 9 pan, whereas you can see we have kind of that pink orange reflect. It's more fiery in the Blanc Pearl. But I would have to say that the formula on this one, you know, it's not new. It's been out, I don't know, has it been a year and a half, 2 years, something like that? And I just feel like it's still like a little bit creamier and easier to pick up than that in the new 9 pan. So I like the Blanc Pearl formula better. I love this brighter pink color here. And let me just show you the pink on top of the black base. We'll do that down here. So you can kind of get an idea of that. So this is the pink from the 9 pan in the new Singular. I also wanted to take a look at the pink from Surratt. And this is the shade Cosmos. And this one actually, you know, doesn't work that well from Surratt. You can see it really is much more muted. It's a warmer pink. I think the one from Chanel is actually much prettier. And for some reason, out of all of the Surratt shades like that, it's only the pink Cosmos one that really has issues, really kind of showing up. So that one's kind of, yeah, I think the Chanel one's better than that. And just to see Blanc Pearl on top of the black base, let's put that here. You can see that pops a lot. But it's definitely going to be warmer, more fiery. You kind of have that pink and orange vibe. So this here is the 248 Latte Frappe. Let's see how this compares to our brown and our orange. You can see it's got more brown than the orange in the palette, and it's also lighter, but it's definitely got more orange than the brown. So it's kind of a mix of those two shades. This here is 238 Quartz Fume, which this is a satin, but you can see it's gonna be a cooler tone brown. This is 222 Jade Facette, which is a nice light green. It's got kind of that minty vibe, but it's got a bit more blue in it. The matte pastel green here has more of a yellow base to it. This is the 254 Mentalo, which is going to be deeper, and again, it has more blue in it as well. This is 236 Brantalpa. Let's go ahead, we'll put that there. And you can see it's gonna be cooler in tone than that in the new Singular. And then we have 252 Peche Glacé, which is going to be a peach shimmer. And you can see that it is a warmer, deeper peach than the matte peach in the palette. Moving on to Pat McGrath, we have Decadence. We're going to take a look at these two here and see if either of them kind of come at all close to the purple. But you can see that they really don't. This definitely has a bit more blue, more gray, and this is more of a burgundy. Let's compare Mothership 6 here. So we've got kind of this shimmery peach and this brown. Let's put them down here. They're not quite going to go with any of those. And let's take a look at Subliminal here. We're going to take a look at these browns. And I'm just going to put them here on the side. And let's go in with the light brown. Those are all going to be cooler than those in the new Singular. Let's take a look at this duochrome shade here. And again, not quite going to go with anything there. So here is the new Singular in 848. Really beautiful palette, a lot of mattes here. And then we have a variety of singles from Chanel and our Mothership palettes. So I hope that was helpful. Let's go ahead and move on to 849, the Space Traveler. All right, so this one here is 849, the Space Traveler. And as soon as I saw this one, not only did it remind me of a Pat McGrath Mothership, but it was also my favorite. You know, seeing the blues and the purples in here, I was just ecstatic. And then we've got this shade that looks green in the pan, but it's a duochrome shade. So let's go ahead, we're gonna swatch that. And you can see as soon as I touch the green, you've got a bit of green there, but look at that. It's that green to the orangey brown kind of hue. So that is going to be a duochrome shade there. And then again, we're back to kind of some of these like lighter shades. This purple, you can put this one on so that you see a lot of this pigment, but it also has a pretty sheer base on its own. So you can use it as a topper. And then our white has a bit more of a brighter blue. And again, we already compared that to some other whites in the comparisons for the 847 palette. Next, we have kind of this matte nude with a touch of peach and a bright cerulean blue. I mean, look at that. That is a stunning, almost electric blue here. And then this deeper blue is going to be more of your night sky kind of shade here. It is going to be navy. We do have a black base on this, so if you continue to blend this, you will get to that black base. So if you want to see more of that blue shimmer, you definitely want to use a patting motion there. Then we have this deep brown with some red and orange in there. And then kind of this fiery orange. Let's add a little more of that shimmer shade here. And you can see there's a little bit of pink, a little bit of gold, a little bit of orange. So it almost looks flame-like. And then we have a matte black. This one is a bit of a creamier texture than that in the 848 palette. It's a matte black and it's going to be a cooler black. So let's take a look at these on the eyes. Just like the other palettes, we have an 18-month shelf life. It's made in France and we have 8 grams of product. And this is called the Space Traveler. It is released for Chanel Holiday 2025. Again, this was designed by the Comet Collective. And in particular, the artist Valentina Lee is the one who designed the Space Traveler. This palette has the most variety of finishes because we do have more of an actual duochrome here versus what we have in the other palettes. We've got metallics, we've got matte shades, and we have those like glitters. This and the 848 are definitely my 2 favorite palettes. Actually, I think mixing and matching these is great. But if you're looking for one that is very special and just kind of screams something a little bit more unique for holiday, I feel like it's this palette. And yet we still have, you know, some mattes in here that make it easy to use throughout the rest of the year or for a more subdued look. And even though we still don't have a ton of mattes in this one, we do have kind of a medium tone and deeper tone matte in here, and we have some lighter shades that, although they have shimmer with the transparent base, they can be used a little bit more easily. And of course, the black matte will blend and mix with the other shades to kind of alter the color a little bit. Since it's a cooler matte, it will kind of cool off the tones in your shadows as well. You'll see that in the last demo where I mixed the matte black and the matte brown together to get more of a cooler tone, richer cocoa. I feel like all of these perform really well. We've got some warmer tones and cooler tones, and the way they mix and match, you can get a variety of different hues here. So I really like this one. I love how we've got, you know, a duochrome. I feel like the orange shade at the bottom, it's like sort of a duochrome, but not exactly. We don't have quite enough of a shift. It has this fiery appearance all on its own, but you don't really see like a color shift per se when you move like you do with the first shade, the green that goes to the orangey brown. And our lilac shade in the middle of the top row, that one again has more of a transparent base, so you can build that up to see more of the purple, but you can also actually kind of sheer that out and use it more as a topper or mix it in with some of the other shades as well. I love having the 2 different depths of blue in here along with the icy blue for the white. I love being able to mix and match those with some of those warmer tones because I feel like the blues and the orange and the terracotta, they go so well together along with that green, but then they also go so nicely with the purple and more of that like peachy brown and the black. So, you know, depending on what you're looking for, you know, you've got a variety of things and they all kind of go very nicely together. So it's really hard for me to decide whether I prefer the 848 or the 849. I feel like the 848 is perfect for all year. It is probably going to be the palette I use the most because of that. However, I do feel like the 849 is more special and you know, I just absolutely love the colors in here and the different finishes. So if you're looking for a workhorse, I'd recommend the 848, but if you're looking for something special and more unique, I think the 849 is really a bit more of a re-envisioned, more subtle version of a Pat McGrath mothership, in my opinion. Overall, I'm very happy with all 3 of these palettes, but the 848 and the 849 are obviously my 2 favorites. So as you're looking at the demos, you can see that, you know, I did test out kind of that peachy brown shade as blush. It definitely actually works really nicely as a neutral blush on here. And the white blue kind of reminds me of that Chanel highlighter, I forget what it was called, the blue one that came out a couple years ago. So we'll take a look at that. But, you know, you can definitely use this all over the face. Again, none of these palettes are really designed for that, but I love being able to utilize them that way in a pinch if I were traveling. So I feel like this is a really nice palette and you've got a lot of variety in here. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to some comparisons. I want to start off with the Chanel Lumiere de l'Océan highlighter. So this was the one I was thinking of. I wanted to just kind of compare that to our blue shade here. You can see that the blue in the 9 pan is going to be more blue, but it just kind of gave me the same idea because this is one that I actually use on my eyes as a topper as well. And I feel like you can kind of get the same idea from the 9 pan. So let's take a look at some of the Chanel singles. Start off with 248 Latte Frappe. Let's compare this to the brown here. You can see this is going to be lighter. It's kind of similar in tone, actually. It's just significantly lighter than that one. This is our 252 Peche Glacé. I'm going to put this one down here, but yeah, it's kind of in between these two shades. And then here's the Quartz Fume. This is 238. I'm just going to put this up here. So although it's very different from this green duochrome, you know, that was kind of the closest one there. Here is the 250 Mauve Sucre. Let's see how that compares. You can see this is going to be more pink. And this is 232 Lila Poudre, which is going to be a bit of a brighter purple. It's got a little bit more blue. It's also going to be a bit more pigmented with one swipe of the brush compared to this one here. So I would say this is the closest, but it's definitely got more of a blue base to it. And then the number one request was definitely to see Subliminal with this. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to swatch all of Subliminal down here, and we're going to do top row, bottom row. So here is Subliminal from Pat McGrath. So this is Mothership number 1. You can see top row, not quite the same. And here's our bottom row. We got that black matte. We have this, which is definitely more of a bluer based, dustier purple. We've got this great taupe. That's one of my favorite shades. We've got this bright blue, but here, let's put this one right here so you can kind of see it's in between the two of these. And then we have the white, which let's put that one right here as well so you can kind of see how they compare again. So that is Mothership number 1, Subliminal with Space Traveler. Different, but a similar vibe. This is going to be cooler overall. Let's take a look at Byredo Mineralscapes here and start off with our purple hue here, and then we're going to do all of the blues. We're just going to look at these again. We did look at them with the 847 palette. You can see that one there has more teal in it. Here's another one. Again, that one's going to be more greenish. Yeah, that's basically it for those. Let's take a look at this peachy shade here. That finger wasn't clean. And let's see how that compares. So this is the peach from Mineralscapes. You can see it's kind of similar. That one is a shimmer, but let's look at the matte version, which is, we'll put that one right here. And you can see that's going to be more rosy, a little bit more of a dusty rose. All right, so here is Mothership 6. Let's take a look at this one here and see how that compares. You can see this is going to be a bit more brownish, a little more of a burnt orange in comparison. And I went to check this brown as well. We'll put that right here. And you can see it's going to be lighter and a little bit warmer. Okay, and here is Decadence. Let's take a look at this shade here and see how this compares to our peachy shade. And yeah, nope, not quite right. Let's take a look at this shifty shade, way more pink. It is fire, but more pink. So I hope that was helpful. So we've got 849 Space Traveler here, along with a variety of Chanel singles and Pat McGrath Motherships and the Byredo Mineralscapes. Let's take a look at the eyeliner. So there are 2 eyeliners in the collection. I only picked up this one, which is 542, which is the orange. And I just think it's a really pretty shade here. And it does match the nail polish from this collection. There's also a red, which I passed on. And yeah, I think it's a really nice eyeliner. You could see it in the demos in 849's, the last demo there, which is what I have on right now on the lower lash line. I also just wanted to go ahead and swatch the mascara again. This is in the shade Anthracite. It is our Noir Allure formula, which is not my personal favorite. I would have preferred they'd done this in the Volume de Chanel, but I couldn't resist this deep purple, which again matches the purple nail polish from this collection. And if you're interested in seeing the nail polishes, I have the orange one on now, but I do have the purple in the first video. And I just want to re-swatch the lip products one more time on my hand. But again, demos for these are in the first video. So this is the lipstick in Astrale. This is 548. But there is an Astrale, I want to say it was number 69 in the permanent line. I do not have that to compare, but I have been told they are pretty much identical. So it's a repeat shade if you already have that. And then the two lip locks that I purchased, I mean, I love these. I've been wearing these a lot. So this one here is 558 Incandescent, which usually, you know, I like to wear this one on its own. You can see it's a really beautiful kind of magenta pink with a touch of red. Or I like to mix it with the purple. The purple I have on kind of by itself right now with a touch of the blue eyeshadow from 849, but usually I mix these two. So the purple one is 559 Nebulas. A little hard to read on these. So I do think when you put these on, the purple one, you have to be a little careful with the application. It can look a little patchy if you move around too much before it fully sets. So just something to note, again, if that happens, adding the pink one on top or a gloss on top, you know, kind of fixes that, or you can kind of reapply, you know, add a little bit more. So the most important thing, if you don't want it to look patchy, is kind of let it set in between layers, or, you know, before you like kind of smoosh your lips around. Now, overall, summing up the Chanel holiday collection. So I have to say, it's a massive collection. I was really excited for this one this year. I have passed on some of the recent Chanel launches because I knew I was saving up for this one. And for me, my #1 favorite item here is the Nuit Astrale palette. So I think this is absolutely beautiful. If I were to pick my top 3 from this collection, it would be this palette and then the 848 and 849 palettes. I do really like the blush lighters. I think they work well for my skin tone. I think for deeper skin tones though, they're really more of a highlighter than a blush lighter personally. And I do really like both of them, so I'm happy I have them, but they're too light for them to be a true favorite for me. So I do know that some people with deeper skin tones have been using these as an all over luminizer, so you know, kind of like more of a radiant powder. So that is another option. For me, it's a little bit too dark for that, but it's also a little bit too light for a true blush. You can see there's not that much color there. So I do really like those. I'm happy to have them, but in retrospect, you know, they're not going to be a favorite. They're a like, not a love. As for the lip products, my favorite are definitely the two locks. I would definitely pick up both of those again. If I had to get one though, I think I'd go with the pink just because, you know, I feel like that one looks better on its own more often with my coloring. So I do really like that one. That one's probably my favorite. The Astrale is a little bit peachier than it looked in the photos. So it's nice, but it's a like, not a love. The eyeliner I think is really fun. You know, is it something that I would have in my rotation? Normally, no, but for something fun and celebratory, I'm very happy to have this. And, you know, it's something that I would use, you know, more like special occasions once in a while. And I do really like using their liquids on the lower lash line. And sometimes I use these as liquid eyeshadow as well. So it's actually going to be really nice for Halloween also. As for the mascara, love the color. Formula is okay. I'd get it again because I love the color. It's a nice limited edition product, but I would prefer them to put that in the Chanel, the Volume de Chanel formula. As for the nail polishes, between the two, I actually do prefer the orange one because it's got kind of this nice shimmery finish. The purple is going to be matte, and I didn't realize, but I do already have a similar shade. You know, it's an old nail polish, but I have a similar shade from another brand. So, you know, this one was not really necessary for me. So between the two though, I prefer this one. I also find that the more shimmery, like satin style nail polishes from Chanel seem to hold up better on my nails than the mattes do. With the mattes, I really need like a good protective top coat because I will get wear on those faster than I do with anything with a sheen. So yeah, the Chanel nail polish formula, you know, I think it's okay. I still prefer my indie brands personally, but every once in a while I like to buy one of these. And yeah, I've been really loving the orange. So that's a really nice one. So overall, no regrets on any of the items I purchased from this collection. I think everything ended up, you know, there's something for everybody in this collection, and I love the variation you can get with this. I mean, basically I could use all of these items all year round and just be happy. That could be all I use. So I think everything worked out well, but again, if I had to name my top 3 items from this collection, it would be the Nuit Astrale palette, and then the 2 9 pans, the 848 and the 849. Or, you know, you could even toss in 1 or 2 of those lip locks. Those are by far my favorite items from this collection. So I hope this has been helpful. I'd love to know if you've tried any of these, what your thoughts have been, and, you know, if you're interested in these. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you very soon. Again, if you missed the first video, it's linked down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Have a great day.